Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm, or To Rhythm From Algorithm, or From Rhythm to Algorithm. Wow, that was a good intro. But you know how we do it, physics, math, linguistics, all from first principle. We keep it rolling, trying to find our definition of sensorality, find the base case of sorality, and we can solve our super axiom. But again, picking up where we left off last time with what is wet, but just trying to find a physical conundrum to resolve. And so, again, we did not answer that question, so just picking up where we left off there. Again, the logic jumps around, but I'm trying to put together all the linguistics to finalize our axiom. But what is wet? What is moist, right? So we have, again, another first principle piece of evidence here, is anytime the reason females don't like the term moist is because it actually is that's the most accurate word to when they are aroused. But it is true. A lot of women, especially in the younger years, might say, oh, I don't like the word moist. That's the reason why. But to the physical conundrum of what is wet, it highlights, again, is it the water touching you? Is it you touching the water? Is it your moisture content? But we know there's no logical paradoxes, contradictions, so it's all about finding the right way to frame the question will produce the complete correct answer. So again, trying to elicit a statement response, a declarative statement in response to a question. So we're trying to find the right question to ask, just moving forward. But that is why wet is slippery. You can ask the Migos that, slippery when wet. They had a song about that back in, several years ago at this point. But in the last episode, I was trying to say, like, what is wet? I'm wet when I touch something, right? I'm wet. Pause. That's what she said. But when you don't know what you're talking about, you revert to talking about sex. It's just true. Right? Remember, think back all the way to our beginning episodes where our big theory of everything was not die, reproduce, and think. So once you not die, you think about reproducing. And that's our big theory of everything. But it's true and it's legitimate. And so we made a logical differentiation between speciality and sensorality. Speciality, our operative word we're currently working with, axiomatically, is differentiate, but in a statement form, differentiation for sexual antagonism, to attract something. And now sensorality has to encompass that definition and add more nuance to it as well. So the operative word we're now using for sensorality is sensorality desires. Right? We use sensorality desires to reproduce, but now just focusing that the operative word is desire. We'll get back to sensorality later, but use of the word field. Unfortunately, I watched an episode of Big Think, another YouTube channel, you can go check it out, with Sean Carroll, a well-known science popularizer. But he has a recent episode on there just describing all of physics in 30 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever the time length is. But it was published on August 22nd of 2025, that is this year. Again, most of the thing, unfortunately, I don't like the guy whatsoever because he's lying about my work, but he does articulate the known physics pretty well. But I don't like the use of the word field, meaning his presentation of where physics was at currently, again, 8 years ago, and this stuff has been done for years, but it is explained well. But what you can notice there is he says vibration a lot. Just go watch the video. And my point is you can't avoid the fundamental basis of words. It is vibration. That is the fundamental physical basis. That is what a word is based on physically and logically, what the words actually mean. And so there's just like a 15-minute section where you can't stop saying the word vibration because you can't avoid the actual basis of physics. Just go watch a sports event and wait until they say the word rhythm. It takes 2 seconds. But what through the whole thing, so 99% of that thing is well put together or well articulated. But the word field, not just in that video, but in the entirety of physics, I don't like. Because it'll say a particle is an excitation of a field. We've already extensively discussed why, and the motivation of unification in physics is kind of awkward. The trying to model force as a particle is completely wrong. Light having momentum is completely physically wrong. And so like a particle, so they're trying to force words to where that doesn't physically apply. So when you say a particle is of excitation of a field. Then the electron, it's the excitation of the electronic field, the electron field. Doesn't make any sense. So what is the field? Is it just one field? Is that the quantum wave? It doesn't make any sense. But, so the word field is used out of physical context, and when fundamental physicists say it, for sure, right? Just, you go on a field trip. What is a field trip? It's another phrasing that, again, it's been consolidated by the species, not me. But it's just logically and ontologically interesting, right? And so it's like, when you take a psychedelic drug, you're tripping. What are you tripping? Are you falling? Are you going into another dimension? Like, what are you doing? And we've discussed what, in the language litigation and integration series, psychedelic drugs don't really do anything in terms of, like, you don't go to another dimension. You're not seeing elves. You're just perceiving the world with novel neural circuitry. So it feels different. But the word field, like I said, what is a field? When I see the word field, no context given, I think of like a plain of grass, like the Great Plains. Hay is blowing in the breeze, or wheat is blowing in the breeze. So that's what I think of the word field when they say a particle is an excitation, right? And now we're viewing, again, particles, mass, as concentrations of vibration, which it is. And so it's not, particles don't come in, right? That violates the conservation of energy. You can't just have a particle come into existence. And then they say, well, over a long enough time as it disappears, so it doesn't, the conservation laws are preserved. It's like, well, that's wrong, because again, nothing can be created or destroyed now, but we've gone over the universal progressions. And so there was a time when matter was created, but then that time stabilized, and now it's just differentiating its form through E equals mc squared, energy and mass. And so we've already covered that extensively, but the word field is really out of place there in saying particles are excitations of quantum fields, which again, like, I don't see how the word quantum in its historical and physical development was used for the word discrete, and people just use it as small. And so it's at a point where physics and it's just so archaic. It's just wrong. It's objectively wrong. As objectively wrong as astrology is to physicists, quantum field theory is to this, what I've done. And so it's insanity. But academia is fraudulent to the point where it's destroyed society. That's just a straight up fact. But the academic people are so pathetic they could never take responsibility for their actions. Never in a million years. But quantum entanglement is rhythmic motion. When they say both particles simultaneously feel the breaking or the collapse of the wave function, stop saying collapse of the wave function, just throw whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean out the window. What happens is rhythm synchronizes vibration. So you have one rhythm, you have one synchronicity. And so when that synchronicity breaks, it's just breaking the one. There's no center, there's no point that's more important than the other point in the dynamic. It is one dynamic. So that's how they feel the vibration or the transmission of information simultaneously. And again, no measurement is simultaneously. The measurement is the limit. So it appears simultaneously because we can't have enough precision in our equipment, but it is not an actual simultaneous. Nothing happens in a moment. This makes no physical sense. So that's good. But a single electron, right? They talk about, again, they always refer to the double slit experiment, and then they'll simply say, well, if we slow down our electron, or it's just one particle, and it will still interfere with itself. No, it still doesn't interfere with itself. I don't know. It's like, I'll give you a good example. I mean, if you're sitting in a room and you're listening to background music, and then someone comes in with a big speaker and starts blaring it, you're going to hear the speaker that's blaring a lot louder, because it's a lot louder than the music in the background. And so when you measure something, and effectively, as we've discussed, everything's always being measured because everything is connected but nothing is touching, so you're always exchanging momentum. And then you just have the hairy ball theorem where one point always has the vector value of 0, so one thing is completely still somewhere in a given locality. And another place is appreciating density, like the center of gravity, like the Earth or the Sun, or the galaxy, just how big you want to make it. But the scale doesn't really change. But the electron isn't interacting with itself. With the speaker analogy, it's just muting out the background noise. And so when you're not measuring, when you're not poking at something, those smaller vibrations, those smaller frequencies don't get snuffed out by the louder speaker. And so the breaking of the wave function being felt simultaneously is rhythmic motion being broken, synchronicity being destroyed, and a single electron going through the double slit experiment is just the act of measurement actually limiting what you can resolve in a measurement. But besides that, again, I just really wanted to point out the vibration. You can't avoid the fundamental physical basis. And Professor Carroll says it like 1,000,000 times. So go check that out. But he does explain it rather well. Learning is integration. Back to our logical integration, right? To integrate. If you learn something on a physical, personal level, what are you doing? You look at the words, you think about it, you look at the logic, you try to process it. It is literally a physical process of assimilation. When you learn something, you integrate it into your vocabulary or into your behavioral patterns. Integration, ratio, right? Ratio is a base word within gration, grationality, ration, rationality, ratio. What's the difference between a ratio and a fraction? But we have, once again, we have another physical phenomenon forcing this kind of like emergence of these things that everyone kind of picks up on, even if you're not doing fundamental physics, right? People will say get ratioed, or like in slang right now today, kids or even people my age or older will say you got ratioed. Or like if you went to a party in high school and it was all dudes, big old sausage fest, that meat party was just slanging, and you were like, yeah, the ratio was 3-to-1. Or the ratio in my case was like 100-to-0. All dudes, no chicks. But so people say you got ratioed, as in like it was 3-against-1. Like there's way more people in support of me. But again, so it's like there's a fundamental difference between using the word fraction and ratio, logically, not really mathematically. But it emerges into slang conversation naturally. So that was interesting. But then another numeric result we can just simply state trivially now, but the fundamental stability of 2 is the same reason why there is only there's one difference between any prime number. Remember, our only proven prime numbers are 3, 5, and 7. So the only difference of any prime number is 2. And so that's another numeric, physical, logical consistency. But the axiomatic definition of sensorality must literally contain speciality, right? Both linguistically with like the actual letters, we're trying to show that iteration, logically with what the words means and implies, and then shows the one-way definition of the word to an actual physical process. And so it must, and because speciality is already proven axiomatically, it literally must contain it logically and linguistically. And so again, we've shown, but now we can bridge, we can change our operative word for speciality, right? What's another one-to-one logical mapping of speciality to differentiation? Well, differentiation is exceptional. Speciality is exceptionality. If you're special, you're exceptional. So now our current functional axiomatic word is exceptional, or generally exceptionality, for the word speciality. So now we have to connect exceptionality to a more general form of sensorality, again in a form that we use every single day, and reduce that. Speciality is sorial, sensorality assorts, to categorize something. Literally you see the word assort, sorality. It's a form of sensorality. Sensorality delights. We can't answer the question, what is light? So what is delight? Right? You're happy, you're elated. Delight. And so does in a prefix, it typically means not this, so delight. Why is that a word? And so you just keep playing with these logic things. Now that we have these tools to assess different things of prefix and suffix and base words and syllability, we have more tools in our mathematical toolbox to analyze these things. Sensorality, work, and life. How do those relate? Again, remember we had life as work, which, do you disagree with that? Do you think life is work? It's logically consistent. So now we have to expand that out. Again, we're showing work is a form of sensorality. But now remember, information. How does work relate to information? You need movement. A rhythm is a cycle with work. A vibration is a cycle without work. information has to be exchanged, momentum has to be exchanged to do something. And just trying to put all these fundamental physical words together. But how do we relate that? I tried plugging those in, but how does order relate to work? And we obviously rhythm is work is proportional to rhythm. We've proven that. And trivially, order is proportional to work. The more orderly you are, the more work you can get done. And again, on those universal phase changes, entropy approaches a zero, but it can't geometrically, so then it expands out again once it gets a new physical property. And that current one for R3 is the repulsion of magnets. That is why the universe is expanding. But we have rhythm maximizes work, momentum, and acceleration. All three of those things, momentum is proportional and maximizes. Order maximizes work, and it's really interesting again how these logical dichotomistic pairs, they appear in real things. Like I do all of this derivation from first principle, then I go read a book or go interact with the world, and it's exactly what people say, right? If you have an apartment and something goes bad, you put in a work order, right? So work order, work, right? Order is proportional to, or work is proportional to order, and you put in a work order. So, like literally, so those dichotomistic pairs is I'm just removing all of the superfluous words, like all of the extra words that I don't need. And I'm just saying, here's the logical thing that I made the jump on, and then I just pile them all up. But you put in a work order. Another trivial example that equality or facet of this geometric linguistics that I can't formalize, but the letters, all that have apparent symmetry that also have logical symmetry or some facet to it. And again, chiral, like it's attempting to be symmetric, but it's not. It can't be perfectly symmetric because of the geometry being odd, entropic, open. But the letters D, P, B, and Q, again, clearly they're all iterations and rotations of one another. So they're all related. There's some sort of thing you can draw there. What can violence teach us about physics? Right? You have two words that you use in legality, assault and battery. Legally, which doesn't really make sense logically, is assault is just the threat of violence, the potential for violence. Like if I cocked my fist back and said, oh, I'm going to fuck you up, technically and legally that's assault. And if you actually make physical contact, again, you can't physically touch, but if you exchange pressure, if you exchange momentum, if you hit them, or you thump them, or you bang them, or whatever, that's battery, technically. But you would get charged with both. But point being is, they've made a legal differentiation. And we have to account for all of these ontological differentiation, all of the subjects. But that's just a difference. And then obviously we can make some connection to what a battery is as a noun, just a capacitor or something that stores a potential differentiation. A potential difference. But differentiation is variation. Consistently modifies an axiom. Again, variation is another word we can use, and exceptionality. Both logically consistent for speciality. Variation, differentiation makes sense. Variation, exception, or exceptionality makes sense. So again, just trying to figure that out. Use different words that are logically consistent so we can axiomatize sensorality. The final thing I wanted to end with today is another historical thing. So in my derivation today, I came across, what's another word for able? Like, it is very clear to me now that there's some ability, right? Syllability, sensibility, workability. The complete word ability, you just tag that onto another word and does something with logic, will do something more definitive later. But able, ability. Right, so if you're able to do something, you can do something. And then wait a second. If we look back in history and all of this stuff consolidates and people transmit meaning through stories, especially before technology, when all of our major historical events are preserved with storytelling. And then so maybe Cain and Abel is an allegory of maybe you can and you're able to do something, but you shouldn't. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, right? So I'm very confident the names Cain and Abel are can and Abel. But because that's into the fundamental ontology. And now again, when you understand what the Bible is, again, just a historical collection of people telling the story of this person who proved all these things with the word, but iterating logic like this, it's historically evident and proven that, again, God, it's a rank just like a president, but then you ask who's the best president. So there's a ranked God, and there's an actual single individual that ranked the highest and did the most work with words, which was a female. I'm intimately familiar that it is a female, was a female. A long time ago, I'm estimating about 50,000 years. But what was I going to say? but it's a story. And so you see like you see the verbiage in the order, and it's like they were doing this level of proofing. So the female person that held the rank of God, with the last person at this level of derivation, I'm certain was working into sensorality and had not axiomatized it yet. At least I don't think so, but probably gotten into it. But once I get to a point where it's like I know it's all me, like all I said, all the words feel different. I can tell it's all me, like all of my original derivation, and there's a lot more of that than all of it before. It's like, yeah, okay. But final thing is like, okay, so what's the last, right? What's the opposite of sensorization, right? Sensorality, sensorization, sensorize. Sensorization is the opposite of revelation. If you censor something, you conceal it. The opposite of concealment is revealing. Right, so if you reveal something, if you disclose something, you don't censor it. And so what's the last book of the Bible, boys and girls? Revelation. And so you hit these exact words. And when you do this at this level, it's like, again, it's like you hike up a mountain and you only know there's one other person that can hike up the mountain. Then you go up there and you see their footprints. It's like, okay, you know what's going on. But those are the things I wanted to cover today. I have some more derivation in my book, but I will get to that tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.